Hi everyone. So in this session I'll be covering how we can handle errors in Python. So this happens to be one of the very important topics because in real world Python programming we tend to use this error handling a lot. Okay. So let's see what all we'll be covering here in this session. So first we'll start with try and except block. Then we'll see what finally is. Then we'll see why we use multiple except statements or multiple except blocks. Then we'll finally end the session with the concept of arrays. Okay. So let's say if we have a very basic program where we are trying to assign a variable k by 1 by 0. Okay. So mathematically, any value which is divided by 0 is undefined. Okay. So this should ideally throw an error. Okay, let's see. We save this. We save this as session 6.py. Now we go back to our directory. I'll click here. I'll enter cmd, press enter. This opens our cmd window. So if you are not aware of what exactly I am doing, you can go at the very beginning of this session, this series, and you will see how I was able to open cmd in this particular directory. Okay. So I'll try to run that program. I have saved it as session 6.py. As you can see, it throws a zero division error saying that division by zero is not correct, is wrong, because mathematically everyone knows that this is wrong. This is undefined rather. Okay. Now, instead of seeing a default uh, error or default error block here, that Python throws, I want this to be handled in a different way. I want a more easy way of making the user understand what exactly the mistake is. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll put this part of the code in try block. Okay. So what is try? So any piece of code that we have to check for any errors, okay, we put it into a try block. So let's say we are going to check for this particular piece of code. Okay. And let's see, instead of getting the default Python error block, we want this to be handled in a much better way. We want the user to understand what exactly has happened. Okay. We cannot divide number by zero. Okay. Now I save this, go back to my CMD, try executing this program. So this time we just see what we wanted the user to see. Okay, so we wanted the user to see, or rather understand what is the issue is. So we printed we cannot divide a number by zero. Okay, and this is exactly what is getting printed. So instead of this, which sometimes would be a little overwhelming for the viewer, this is a much easier way to understand what is the issue with the code is. Okay, so that is why error handling comes into picture. Okay. uh, we'll understand logging also. So here, in case of any error, we can basically log it also in our say for a separate file. We'll see it in the logging session what logging is all about. But here you just understand that instead of throwing this big error, we can handle it by just printing one single statement. Okay. Perfect. So what happens here? Any code that is put under try block is checked checked for any error, and if there is any error occurring, it would go to the following except block and would execute that whatever code is inside that block. Okay. Now, say for example, uh, I have a scenario wherein I want, since this happens to be a zero division error, I want this to be handled in a different way. Okay. I want this statement to be printed in case there is a zero division error and for all other exceptions. Okay. All other types of exceptions. And all other types of exception, I want the viewer to see this is not a zero division error. Okay. Let's see k is a valid value and I'll try to print x. Okay. So as you can see from the code, k is now being assigned a valid value, but x is not defined, and still we are trying to print it. Okay. Okay. So let's see if what if we don't have any. Yeah, that would be a better way of showing things first. So I put this in a multi-line comment, and then try to print x. Okay. I save this, go back here, try to execute this program here. So you see the name error has occurred, okay, saying that x is not defined. So that is very certain because we are not defining x before printing it. Now, if we just remove this and uncomment this part of the code, I save this, go back here, try to execute it. So you see, this is not a zero division error. So what is happening here is this piece of code is getting executed, okay, and as soon as it comes across an error, it checks for the first except block. Okay, this is the first except block, but here we are handling only scenarios which is a zero division error scenario. Okay, so this part of the except block won't be getting executed. Rather, this part of the except block would be, because first it will go here, it will check for this except block and will see, oh, this is for zero division error. This is not, since this is not a zero division error anymore, we have to check for another except block if there is any. So it will then check for the next except block. Here it sees that it is not specific for any certain type of error, so it will just go inside this and try to execute whatever program is in this block, in this except block. Okay, that is exactly what is happening here. Okay, so what we understood from this code is, for different types of error we can handle scenarios differently. Okay, say we wanted we wanted a name error to be handled like this. Okay, this is this is a name error. Okay, now if I go back, I try to execute it, you see this is a name error getting printed. Okay, now let's see an example where the error is none, neither zero division error nor name error. Okay, in this case we'll print this error type handling is not defined. Now instead of this, I since k is an integer, I want to add k with a string. Let's say sstf. Okay. Now I save this, go back to my session, so my CMD session, and run this command. So as you can see, this is what is getting printed. This error type handling is not defined. Okay. So what we conclude from here is, and since this is neither a zero division error or name error, this originally is a type error. Okay. So for a very different type of error, it will check for these two except block. It won't be satisfied, the condition won't satisfy that, and then it will finally end up in this except block and will execute um, this part of the code. Okay, so I hope this is very clear how we try and accept try and handle the error. Okay, so fine. Now I'll just delete this part of the code and see how. So this is these are the scenarios which I just showed where the error actually occurs, right? So this is, so if we try to divide a number by 0, that is definitely an error for Python also. Okay, if we are trying to add a string and an integer, that is a Python error. Okay, let's see a scenario where we check for a certain condition, and if that condition is getting satisfied, we want Python to throw an error. Okay, let's see, we have a value, or rather a variable a, which has value 100. Okay, and I want the Python program to throw an error if a value is greater than 10. Okay, in that case I'll use the raise keyword. Okay, so with raise we'll write an exception that the value should should not be greater than 10. Okay. Else print the value is within the limit. For better understanding, I'll just remove all these things. Okay. So we have a variable, we are checking if it is greater than 10, then we want the Python to throw an error. If it is not greater than 10, I want this print statement to be getting printed. Okay. I save this, I go here, I execute my program. As you can see, this is not an error originally. Okay. We are just checking a condition, right? We are not, this is not, this won't throw an error. At most, it will throw a false if this is not justified. Okay. But since we wanted Python to throw an error in certain condition, so we are doing it using raise. Okay. So here you can see it has thrown an error and thrown an exception saying the value should not be greater than 10. Okay. Now if my value is 9, okay, I save this, go back here, will open the CMD once. I run this program session 6.5. So you see, now there is no exception. Okay, now we get the else statement, else print statement getting printed. Okay, so through raise we can raise an exception under certain condition whatever we want the Python program to deliver. Okay, so as per our requirement, we can raise exceptions in our Python program. So this is it how we normally this is how we basically handle error handling in Python. Now, how come and in which scenarios we do come across this try and accept statement is like scenarios wherein we have to log information. So a certain condition or certain error come across, we want this to be logged in a certain file. So we uh, use it. You use our error handling in that scenario. Okay. So that is it. We'll see more of this when we discuss about or in our uh, data engineering series. So that is it for today. Let me know if there is any doubt in the comment box, and we'll handle it. We'll look into that. Right? Chalo. Okay then. Bye.